One line I can't stand from parents or people talking about parents is that they did their best. In many cases, said parents in fact did not do their best. This thought came to me because, as I've mentioned previously, both of my parents have passed on. And with reflecting on their passing, I, as their daughter, recognize that my parents did not in fact do their best. My parents' best was not my best, meaning that their best effort was not enough for me personally as their daughter. For one, as a kid, they did not provide me with many of the tools that I would need in adulthood. That's not to say that they didn't teach me absolutely anything, because that would be incorrect. For example, my mother, she did teach me household responsibilities from a young age. She taught me how to cook, how to clean, how to nail pictures into the wall. She taught me, at one time, I even was tasked with going onto a roof and putting down tarp on the roof to prevent water from leaking inside of the house. So she did teach me. The plane, let's let the plane go by. I live in New York City, by the way, so it's noisy nonstop. And I'm like, if I don't record because of the noise, I just would simply never record because it's just always noisy here. So excuse me. But like I was saying, and so my mom was not necessarily emotionally available. She did joke and things like that sometimes, but she was not very expressive in her love in terms of like directly saying I love you. Um, I also don't remember her or my father sitting me down and talking to me about. Sounds like someone outside with a cart. She kept a lot of her feelings and thoughts to herself, it seemed, when I reflect back on her time while she was still here. And the same went for my father. Like, my father was very warm growing up. I was such a daddy's girl. However, I would say my father taught me play. Like, he would let me and my siblings just play with him and things like that. We would, like, so-called style his hair. He didn't really have hair, but we would style his hair. We would like play with him. I used to actually, which was really gross, I used to do pedicures on him, or manicures, whichever one it is. I used to do pedicures on his feet and scrape the dead skin off with a butter knife. So, like, my father, and I really enjoyed that, right? My father brought a lot of warmth and play into my life growing up. Um, but my mother was more the disciplinarian. She was very strict, and sometimes that did include getting whooped and things like that. Um, and when I think back about those sort of things, I wasn't bad. I was not a bad kid. I went to school. I loved school. I thrived in school. I wanted to be active. I was in different activities like cheerleading and dance. And I found those opportunities on my own or by just accompanying my friends to go to certain activities and stuff like that. And so, in my neighborhood growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn when I was in elementary school. And so we had this Jackie Robinson program where we could dance and step and things like that. And so I found myself immersed in that at one point, going to dance and stuff like that. Um, I would say that my parents' biggest failure for me, as their daughter, again, this is like a critique, but I have the right to do so as their daughter. Their biggest failure was not supporting me. Now the train is going by. Thank you, right? I don't remember them really often like congratulating me when I did well in school. Like, my mother would say good, and I guess you can say that is a congratulations, but I never was celebrated really as a kid. My mother did not attend a lot of my events at school and things like that, nor did my father, but I do remember my father actually coming to celebrate with me or coming to see me maybe once or twice, growing up in elementary school in particular. And after elementary school, they definitely were not really involved in my life like that, in terms of my school life and my accomplishments. And I was doing really well in school, and I always have done well in school. I graduated top of my class with my bachelor's degree, and I'm on track to do the same in my master's, as I'm currently in my master's program. And just along the way, I just, had to do, I just liked learning. And I think that hearing words like I love you and receiving affirmation would have done me a lot for my self esteem growing up. I felt like I was nerdy but creative, and I feel like that holds true today as well. I was more of a quiet kid, but I also was I feel like I was slightly more extroverted as a kid, in terms of I was not afraid to do certain things. Like, I like to dance, and I would dance in front of anyone. And I say that to say that, like, every child is different and every child has different needs. I think that something that I needed was assurance and affirmation, because I was a bit eccentric and I have always been a bit eccentric in my personality. So my parents' relationship was a bit toxic at times, in terms of, like, there was abuse and things like that. And so I witnessed a lot of that toxicity, and it was not pleasant to witness, and it instilled some fear into me. And I just found myself really yearning for love from a young age, because I didn't feel it at home, and that's just the honest truth. However, I always had like a knowing that my parents loved me, even if they did not express it directly, and was not like the lovey-dovey, overly display of affection type of people. Like, I feel like my father was more like that than my mother. And my mother did show me affection sometimes. It was through her cooking, it was through her doing my hair. It was in those sort of unspoken moments. Also, there was a lot of fighting due to my father's infidelity. He was like a cheater, and because of that, it impacted their relationship a lot. And so, yeah, it's just what it is. Although my parents' best was not my best, I still grieve them. And this is why I am doing this sort of content, because I know how it is to grieve complex relationships with parents and people like that. Of course, I still grieve my parents, well, because they are my parents and I love them and still do. Just because you have complex relationships with your parents does not mean it won't hurt when they pass on. And in my case, again, both of mine have passed on. And so, yeah, obviously it's messy. The grief process has definitely exposed a plethora of emotions. It has brought up a lot of memories. It has brought up a lot of what ifs, a lot of I wish or I hope this would have happened that, will never happen because both of them are gone. But the one thing that I do say is that I don't have any regrets on my part as a child of my parents. So, given my position and my experience with this, I decided that I would present some tips for people who are grieving their parents, whether it's one or both, when they've had complex relationships with their parents, particularly when they feel their parents did not do their best. So, for me, what has helped is just acknowledging what my parents got right. Like I said, my father was like the shining star of my childhood. Honestly, like I loved him dearly, you know. He made me laugh. He used to take me with him. He used to buy me whatever I wanted. Like I did not have to, well, I felt like I didn't want for anything in terms of like if I wanted candy, I'll go. He'll give me $20, and I'll be able to go to the store and get candy. You know, plain. For Christmas, I was content as I received the gifts I wanted. You know, I got the school supplies I asked for. So I don't know, but for me, that is the thing that I remember when it comes to my father. Like, also, I used to just hop in the car. He take me with him to see my grandmother when we had a relationship. We don't have one anymore, and that's a whole nother story. But, and so those are the memories that I hold on to about my father in particular. And then when it comes to my mother, like, she was my eating buddy, you know, like she taught me how to cook. I still cook in ways that reflect her cooking. The only thing that I have not mastered since her passing is her fried chicken. And that sucks for me because that was the best. Like, it really was so good. So I hold on to the best parts of my parents. I get my style from my mother. Like, my mother used to be a shoe queen, and like she used to dress really nicely. So I get that from her. So respecting them and showing gratitude for what they got right, and holding on to the best memories that you have with them. And if you don't have any good memories with your parents, that's okay. I know that would be even harder to process, because I know that is a difficult position to be in. You can start with thank you for life, you know, just thank you for allowing me to have a human experience in this realm, you know, if there's literally nothing else you could think of. Which is sad. I laugh because we have to make some light of it, right? Another thing is to express the negative emotions that you have, when you think about them, the inner pain that you might not have dealt with. And you can do this in therapy. I've done it in therapy as well. You can do this on your own. I've done a lot of healing work on my own, honestly. I do a lot of reflection, a lot of journaling, a lot of just meditation on the past, and I actually do release ceremonies. And so expressing those negative emotions and the disappointments are really, really important. And you may not believe in like another world, a spiritual world or anything like that, which is your right? I do, however. And so I think that releasing those pent up disappointments and emotions helps not only you, but your bloodline. It also helps your parents who have passed so that they can move on and go toward the light, feeling better, you know, and not like they have to be around you in your space and in your energy because it's such a negative energy between the two of you. And so that is my personal take when it comes to that. And you, again, you don't have to believe in that. It's fine. That's just my personal belief. And lastly, the one thing that has really helped me, with all of this processing of both of my parents' deaths are basically just checking in with myself to ensure that I haven't been idolizing them as parents, meaning like I'm looking at them both as individuals, both as humans. That has helped me to process because both of them were people first, you know. I had no control. Like they were my parents, not vice versa. They were their own individuals. They were their own human beings and had their own minds and wants and desires and things that they chose to do. And when you look at your parents like that, it helps you to kind of take a step back and digest everything. Because again, in society we put a lot of pressure on parents to be good parents, and I've done this before too, right? But I think my position But I think my position is more from a place of knowing how it feels not to have that. My parents were both good in their own respects. However, they weren't the best, and so my perspective comes from that angle. And like I was saying, society puts a lot of pressure on parents to perform and be good parents and to show up all of the time. And even though I'm not a parent myself, and I don't necessarily want to be a parent, even though that is the case, I can empathize with parents and how that could feel like a big, like a huge pressure on them. Yet again, it is my belief that parents are supposed to guide their children in the right way and do things for their kids that ensure their safety and their protection and things like that, right? So by taking a step back, we can be more empathetic and be more compassionate and understanding about our parents and their faults. And so those are my tips. So I hope this is a good starting point for you if you're new on this journey, if you've lost both of your parents, or even one and you're struggling with healing that relationship and understanding it and making sense of everything now that they have passed on. I do invite you to sign up for my newsletter, which will be linked in the description box below. I do plan on launching a community for people who have lost both of their parents and are looking for support. So I would like to keep you in the loop when it comes to that. Also, I am a trauma and grief coach, and so I will be opening up slots for clients in the near future. So if you're interested, signing up for my newsletter would be the best way to get notified about that as well. I invite you to share your thoughts and stories in the comments below as well. Please share this with someone who it may benefit. Subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you'll be notified when I post again. So in the meantime, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.